Take it. I'm back, guys.
What was that?
Oh my days. Drop you. Guys, I'm back. Yes, I'll sing happy birthday for you tomorrow. Guys, welcome. I think the first person here is Lovely and Iwa. Oh God. Guys, just give me 2 seconds, please. I beg you. 2 seconds. I don't know why I didn't think about this before I start. Yeah, just 2 seconds, please. I'll be back.
Where did I press you?
Oh my.
What?
I'm back. Thank you for waiting for me. Do. Guys, I'm back. No, wait. Kiki, bring that your color book. And yeah, and come and color something for me. Yeah, guys, I'm sorry. Thank you for waiting. I'm back. Hope we didn't leave. Hi, yeah, please drop your name on the comment section. Let me give you a shout out. Let's go. Andrew, color that one. Is that unicorn us? Is that unicorn? Ah, so cute.
Are you wearing white? I'm wearing your kids. You're wearing black. Yeah.
Yeah, guys, let's go. You remind me of my teacher. So what do I remind you of? I know your teacher's in. About what? About your teacher? You look gorgeous. As in what exactly about your teacher? I just want to know.
No, you're wearing white.
All right, put down your name. I give a shout out. Let's go. A big shout out to Ivy. A big shout out to Finley. A big shout out to Sakura. Guys, put down your name on the comment section. I give you a shout out. Let's go. A big shout out to Angel. Please, let's take the like up to 10, please. Please, let's take the like up to 10. Thank you so much. She used to be my 3rd grade teacher. She looks exactly like you. Okay. Okay, she sounds like you. She has the same hair like you. Oh, that's nice. The resemblance is just too much. A big shout out to Kana. A big shout out to Yuri. A big shout out to Maya and Amaya. A big shout out to Makenda.
It's Otto.
A big shout out to Charlotte. A big shout out to Brooke. You're so pretty. Thank you so much, gorgeous. Just finish painting for me, okay?
He's not using it.
A big shout out to Chloe. A big shout out to Emerald. A big shout out to Ailey. A big shout out to Kenzia. A big shout out to Charlotte. Ish. A big shout out to Yasmi. A big shout out to Broke. A big shout out to Nico.
Pause. You're
I'm back. Yeah, I said I'll be back. A big shout out to Jovi. Guys, please, thank you. Oh, thank you for liking, guys. Please, let's go subscribe as well. Thank you so much. A big shout out to Steven. A big shout out to Emily. A big shout out to Anna. A big shout out to Evie. A big shout out to Lily. A big shout out to Azza. A big shout out to Anna. Let's go. You're welcome. You're welcome. A big shout out to Blake. A big shout out to Sally Home. A big shout out to Raluka. A big shout out to Daisy. A big shout out to Rose. A big shout out to Daniela. A big shout out to Blake. Yes. You better go touch her now before you off. A big shout out to Sabrina. A big shout out to Lexi. A big shout out to Lara. A big shout out to Eden. A big shout out to Paisley. A big shout out to C. Calvin. A big shout out to Ivy. A big shout out to Daniel. You know, so now we not concerned, then they always put their mouth. A big shout out to Ariana. A big shout out to Belly. A big shout out to Bobby. A big shout out to Elena. A big shout out to Mia. A big shout out to Chesley. Chessie. A big shout out to Isabella. A big shout out to Savia. A big shout out to Sophia. A big shout out to Milan. A big shout out to Mido. A big shout out to Sophia. A big shout out to Odin. A big shout out to Emily. A big shout out to Mila. A big shout out to Mahili. A big shout out to Steven. A big shout out to Olivia. A big shout out to Alana. A big shout out to, please put down your name, Chloe Kent. A big shout out to Daniela. A big shout out to Ima. A big shout out to Princess. A big shout out to Diane. A big shout out to Celio and Noah. A big shout out to Manny Ray Bonnet. A big shout out to Code. A big shout out to Susie. A big shout out to Sophia. A big shout out to Diane. A big shout out to Julie. A big shout out to Asma. A big shout out to Coda. Jeremy. I'll need that phone now for your papa. A big shout out to Olivia. It's better when you open the laptop now, may you use that one. A big shout out to Graceley. A big shout out to Jeremiah. A big shout out to Copper. You're welcome. A big shout out to Dilemma. A big shout out to Jeremiah. A big shout out to Sarah Jane Bonnet. A big shout out to Aria. A big shout out to Rejoice. A big shout out to Oli. Big shout out to Aaron. Big shout out to Sophie. Big shout out to Helen. Big shout out to Amarachi.
sniper dude.
Big shout out to Lily. Big shout out to Isabella. A big shout out to Sophie. Big shout out to Piggy. Angle. A big shout out to Winter. A big shout out to Layla. A big shout out to Isabel. Let's go. Please put your name on the comment section. Thank you so much for the likes. Let's go. A big shout out to Josie.
Please. No. Jim, let's play sniper duels.
A big shout out to Marianne. A big shout out to Nono Wings. A big shout out to Belle. I love you too, Dustin. A big shout out to Liliane. A big shout out to Faith. I was late. Oh, no worries. It's fine. A big shout out to Lila. A big shout out to Josie. A big shout out to Mawa. A big shout out to Alana. A big shout out to South. A big shout out to Liliana. Yes, I remember you, Faith. Thank you. Can we take the like up to 20? Faith, you are welcome. I know you subscribe, so please let's like. Thank you. A big shout out to Luciana, Joseph, and Dominic. A big shout out to Paradise. A big shout out to Leila. A big shout out to Neela. A big shout out to Adriana. I'm only seeing Leila here. Please, let's put down our name, okay? A big shout out to Tina. A big shout out to Chiamaka. A big shout out to Rebecca. A big shout out to Pokey. A big shout out to Kata. A big shout out to Josie. A big shout out to Mary. A big shout out to Manny. A big shout out to Max. A big shout out to Winnie. A big shout out to Faith. I know you've subscribed 1 month ago. Yeah, Faith. Yeah, thank you. A big shout out to Zoe. A big shout out to Crispy Bacon. A big shout out to Nat. A big shout out to Leila. A big shout out to Josie. A big shout out to Sarah. A big shout out to Jazz. A big shout out to David. Thank you. A big shout out to Fiona. I love you too. A big shout out to David. A big shout out to Ivy. A big shout out to Flavor. Shout out to Winnie. Shout out to Lane. Shout out to King. Guys, let's go. A big shout out to Paradise. A big shout out to Jay. Shout out to Flavor. Shout out to Leon. Shout out to Josie, Mabel. A big shout out to thank you so much, Faith. A big shout out to Hapa. A big shout out to Jay Lisha. Thank you so much. Shout out to Rasa. Yeah, Faith, you're amazing. Okay, you're amazing. You're nice. A big shout out to Mayana. A big shout out to Shimi Shimi Coco. It's my birthday. Happy birthday to you. What's your name? A big shout out to Appa. A big shout out to Leave. Thank you for subbing, Leave. A big shout out to Sophie. A big shout out to Elena. A big shout out to Adra. A big shout out to Zoe. A big shout out to David. A big shout out to Winnie. A big shout out to David. A big shout out to Charlie. A big shout out to Amelia. A big shout out to Dave, your dad. A big shout out to Jaden. A big shout out to Jibril. A big shout out to Stella.
Am I playing Knife Arena?
A big shout out to Aiden.
They play sniper, dude.
A big shout out to Faith. A big shout out to Aiden. A big shout out to Abam. A big shout out to Adria. A big shout out to Salish. Shout out to Josie. A big shout out to Oil. Slay. Slay Queen. A big shout out to Imali. Let's go. A big shout out to Nell. A big shout out to Molly. A big shout out to Country. A big shout out to Broke. Yeah, big shout out to Tara. A big shout out to Bailey. A big shout out to Kiki. A big shout out to Aiden. Big shout out to David. Let's go, guys. Oh my God, thank you. You're welcome. A big shout out to Nell. Slay Queen. A big shout out to Eden. Yeah, guys, let's go like and sub. A big shout out to Winnie. Yeah, I wish you all the best on your gymnastic camp. Okay, I wish you all the best. A big shout out to Madeline. A big shout out to Dear. Big shout out to Winnie. A big shout out to Ira. Yeah, my next live is tomorrow. Tomorrow, UK time, in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening. Okay. A big shout out to Aiden. A big shout out to Alain. A big shout out to Yasin.
Germany, you are literally
A big shout out to Julia.
because of your strokes. How many kills you have?
A big shout out to Winnie.
How do you have more than me? Shoot. No.
A big shout out to Jiwo. Shout out to Ziva.
Is that you?
Zeva. Adria. Best of luck, Adria. A big shout out to Jasmine. A big shout out to Andrade. Shout out to Jake. There you go. A big shout out to Gibson. A big shout out to Bella. Thank you, Bella. A big shout out to Anya Farah. Thank you. A big shout out to Isabella. Tomorrow is your birthday. A big shout out to Namudari. Yeah, don't worry, I'll sing for you tomorrow if you come tomorrow, okay? Turn on your notification bell. Yeah, tomorrow I'll sing for you. Happy birthday to you. Okay. A big shout out to Sophia. Guys, let's take the like up to 40. And please, let's subscribe. Let's go. Yeah, 2 seconds is done. Please, let's take the like up to 40. 2 seconds is done. And please, let's subscribe as well. Just 2 seconds. It won't take time. Then come on the comment section and put your name down. Yeah, let's go. Your name on the comment section. Let me give you a shout out. A big shout out to Goba. A big shout out to Elizabeth. A big shout out to Leslie. A big shout out to Islam. A big shout out to Grace. A big shout out to Dilmeet. A big shout out to Elizabeth. Shout out to Ima. Shout out to Lay. You're crashing out. Lovely. No worries. A big shout out to Santina. Shout out to Ariel. Shout out to Susan. Shout out to Umaira. Hi, darling, start Brown. A big shout out to Kennedy. I will come tomorrow to see the singing. Oh, no worries. All the best. A big shout out to Lee. A big shout out to Adi. Shout out to Jada. Shout out to Andrew. Shout out to Stella. Hi. Shout out to Maddie. You are the best. Victor. Shout out to Ailey. A big shout out to Deborah. Shout out to Lassie. A big shout out to Abderrahman. A big shout out to Charlotte. A big shout out to Rahim. Nice to meet you, Namaste. Shout out to Mali. Shout out to Josh. A big shout out to Allo Molly. Winter. A big shout out to Liana. A big shout out to Jackson. A big shout out to Enes. A big shout out to Florence. Shout out to Shelia. A big shout out to Mira. A big shout out to Oli. A big shout out to Nayeli. Happy birthday tomorrow. I'll sing for you tomorrow, okay? Guys, can we take the like up to 45? And please let's subscribe. Just 2 seconds, you've done it. And come to the comment section. Put down your name back to back. A big shout out to Elena. A big shout out to Ala. Shout out to Amelia. Shout out to Penelope. Jeremy. Mome. Shout out to Andrea. You are nice and I sub. Yay. Thank you for subbing. I sub. Thank you. Akira. Yeah, guys, please let's go subscribe as well. Then put your name on the comment section. Back to back. A big shout out to Penelope Campbell. I'm your big fan. Oh, I know. Thank you so much. A big shout out to Blade. A big shout out to Kaylee.
At least I'm in it.
Please let me stand up. I want to stand up. Oh, yeah. Jeremy, Mume. A big shout out to Risbel. Let's go, guys. Yeah, please let's go like and sub. Thank you so much. Please let's go like and subscribe. A big shout out to Ethan. Thank you for the 46 likes. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you. A big shout out to Hyla. Hayla. A big shout out to Andrea. Shout out to Julie. Shout out to Cameron. Shout out to Emma. A big shout out to Caitley. A big shout out to Adria. A big shout out to America. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Danny. Shout out to Ayla.
I just would get revenge on you.
A big shout out to Enes. Thank you so much. Let's go. A big shout out to Officer. A big shout out to Lola. A big shout out to, please put down your name. Big shout out to Bay. A big shout out to Simra. A big shout out to Larissa. Shout out to Olivia. Oh, she. Shout out to Light. I love your feet. Thank you. Guys, let's go. Can we take the like up? Please, let's go like and subscribe.
Just kill me.
Then put your name on the comment section back to back. I give you a shout out. A big shout out to Felicity. A big shout out to Kennedy. I love you too. A big shout out to Logan. Oh, thank you for 50 likes. Oh, thank you so much. I'm so grateful. I'm really thankful. Thank you so much for 50 likes. Please, let's go subscribe as well. A big shout out to Kendra. A big shout out to Mimi. Love you. Big shout out to Ava. Shout out to Jennifer. Shout out to Vanessa. A big shout out to Caroline. A big shout out to Jama. A big shout out to Jama. A big shout out to Caroline. Shout out to Lucy. Shout out to Lion. A big shout out to Kelly. A big shout out to Leah. Jeremy Mume. Guys, let's go. Please let us subscribe. A big shout out to Camille. A big shout out to Small. A big shout out to Sophie. Sophia. A big shout out to Chloe. Guys, can we take the like up to 60? Please let us like and sub. Thank you. Gerard, don't post. No worries. A big shout out to Maxie. A big shout out to Scott. A big shout out to Arabelle. Gerard, let's go. When you can post now. A big shout out to Spicy.
Shoot a knife only, yeah. Oh, I just put that.
A big shout out to Spicy.
Okay, then.
Guys, can we put our names on the comment section back to back, back to back? Yeah, let's go put our name down. A big shout out to Brianna. Shout out to Amy. Someone said if I could. Someone said if I could, I will give you money. Thank you for even having it in mind. Yeah, thank you. A big and I pray God provide for you. A big shout out to Spicy. A big shout out to Mimi. A big shout out to Cruz. Guys, let's go like and sub. Thank you so much. Thank you for 53 likes. I do appreciate. A big shout out to Jane. Let's go like and sub. Thank you so much. A big shout out to Ben. A big shout out to Carrie. A big shout out to Olivia.
Where are you making?
A big shout out to Sherry. A big shout out to Angelica. Shout out to Carrie. Hello, hi. Catalia. A big shout out to Sherry. A big shout out to Slay Unknown. A big shout out to Avaskina. A big shout out to Natalie. A big shout out to Shadi. Shout out to Jesse. A big shout out to Shady. Let's go. A big shout out to Chloe. Thank you so much. A big shout out to Mackenzie. A big shout out to McKenny. Hi, Epic. A big shout out to Jaylee. Love you too, Start Brown. A big shout out to Nadia. A big shout out to Vanessa. Let's go. Guy, put your name on the comment section. I give you a shout out. A big shout out to Sammy. Can we take the like up to 60? A big shout out to Jessie. A big shout out to Marese. A big shout out to Lottie. Shout out to Grace. Shout out to Peter. Let's go. A big shout out to Alana. A big shout out to VC. Shout out to Kenzie. Shout out to Sao. I didn't say it. Ah, Gerard. Reduce that now. You are so pretty, so confident. I love your life and you're literally amazing. I love you much. Thank you so much, Angelica.
Jeremy, where are you?
A big shout out to Bessie. A big shout out to Anali.
I can't even see.
A big shout out to Lassie. A big shout out to Vissy.
I know you joined.
A big shout out to Angelova. Oh my days, thank you so much for 60 likes.